Hi Wellspring, I hope this video finds you all well, and I just wanted to share a quick thought with all of you as we consider these just unique times that we happen to be living in right now. Some of you might be asking yourselves the question, how can I continue to make disciples when I can't actually meet with somebody face to face? And so I wanted to share some thoughts on that, actually from the example of Paul's ministry in Scripture. As we know, Paul, he did a lot of face-to-face ministry. He traveled all over the world and did a lot of ministry right there in the midst of the people. But we also know, just from reading the Bible, that Paul did a lot of distance-based ministry. He did a lot of ministry to people that he wasn't actually there present with. And in fact, when you look in Colossians, Paul is writing this letter to the church in Colossae, and he has never actually even met the church there. He's never actually been there to be with the church. We find that out in Colossians chapter 2. In verse 1, Paul says, "For I want you to know how greatly I am struggling for you, for those in Laodicea and for all who have not seen me in person." So, Paul is obviously, he hasn't ever met these believers, and yet he still desires to have some ministry and to bear some fruit among them. And so one of the first things we see is that he contacts them. He writes them a letter and sends it through the hand of a helper to go and deliver it to the church. And I think that's applicable for us today. In fact, maybe even more so than in Paul's day, because we not only have mail that is probably a lot faster than Paul's back in his day, but we also have email. We have phones. You can call, you can text message, and those are just really easy ways to just check up on somebody, send them a quick note, make sure they're doing okay, and to give them an encouragement from Scripture. But what I really wanted to focus on is actually what happens in chapter 1 of Colossians, where Paul is praying for these believers. And we see that all throughout Paul's letters. I think just about in every letter that Paul writes to different churches, he includes a prayer for them, or at least lets them know, hey, this is how I'm praying for you. And so I wanted to look at Paul's prayer for the Colossians in chapter 1, starting in verse 9. "For this reason also, since the day we heard of this, we haven't stopped praying for you. We are asking that you may be filled with the knowledge of His will in all wisdom and spiritual understanding, so that you may walk worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing to Him, bearing fruit in every good work and growing in the knowledge of God, being strengthened with all power according to His glorious might, so that you may have great endurance and patience, joyfully giving thanks to the Father, who has enabled you to share in the saints' inheritance in light. He has rescued us from the domain of darkness and transferred us into the kingdom of the Son He loves. In Him we have redemption, the forgiveness of sins." And so what we have here is a beautiful example of how Paul sought to make disciples from a distance. Oftentimes when we think of making disciples, we overlook the element of prayer. I mean, maybe we think of praying with them, and we do pray for them, but have we ever considered that to be a component or a tool of the discipleship that we're doing, recognizing that God is the one who changes hearts. God is the one who causes growth and maturity. And so I find that whether we're forced to be at a distance or not, prayer ought to be one of the primary ways that we go about discipling other people. And so especially now, when we're forced to be at a distance, and when a lot of us may find that we have some extra time on our hands and we have some extra time in isolation, what better way to use that time than to pray for one another? And I would just encourage you, family, to search the Scriptures, read through some of Paul's epistles, and find those prayers, and you can even use those prayers to pray for those whom you are discipling, to those that you are ministering to. Just pray these prayers, pray these words directly over these people that you are discipling and working with. And then you can drop them a note. You can give them a call, leave them a message, send them a text, write them an email, and say, hey, I just want you to know I'm praying for you. And here's how. And you can give them the passage and say, this is what I'm praying for you specifically today. And I believe that God will honor those prayers, and that we will see still continued growth. Even though we cannot meet together one-on-one or face-to-face, we will see continued growth as the Lord honors the prayers of his saints. God bless you all. We love you.